to do a round of word association with champions. Basically, I will mention a champion to you, and you need to tell me the first professional player that comes to your mind when I say this champion.
Okay. It has to be LEC or
No. It could be LEC, LCK, anyone you think of that is a pro player.
Okay.
Silas.
Xayah. Caps.
Humanoid.
Vedius.
Shoemaker.
Sertuss.
Chobi.
Nuke.
There.
Me. Reverse sweep against Fnatic.
Here comes the re-engage, and that's the wombo we talked about. Fire rains from the sky. The reverse sweep coming through as Rogue will be the final boss in the LEC.
Nidalee.
Kenya.
Brother.
Diamond procs.
Bo actually came up.
Does he play a lot in solo queue?
Yeah, I think so. Seems like crazy nearly.
Why Jankos?
I mean, there's a lot of spears. If I look out, I can see a lot of spears, yeah.
Why Jankos? I'm not sure, but many European people say, careful, Jankos Nidalee Q. Jankos Nidalee Q, focusing your heads. I feel bad because I can just do one meme about it.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know. He plays a good Nidalee. Hope he picks it.
I will not stand for the slander anymore. Welcome back to maybe the most exciting game of the day. You know what? In fact, I think it is the most exciting game of the day.
Oh, okay.
BDS versus SK. Two of the grudge match of the biggest surprise teams coming out of the winter split because of what we expected out of them, their respective budgets, the players they fielded. I think nobody had too much positive to say at all. And then BDS did fantastically. Didn't get past the group stage though. SK did, made it to the playoffs. And I think respectively, they had a great journey in the winter split. And I think that's why we're so excited about spring.
100%. I think both teams sort of showed bringing in some fresher talent that absolutely stepped up on the stage. And for SK in particular, making it all the way to top 4, upsetting Vitality in the BO3s as well. Just huge stuff from them. And I feel like when I see this team, I think about the off season for them, and they weren't going out and like grabbing all the star players they could to build a super team and succeed. In Europe, we don't really do that all too well. I see, if you ever seen the movie Moneyball, right, where it's like come up with the best players in their roles that you can find that don't cost $1 million, right, and you put together a team where all the pieces work so seamlessly within each other. This SK team really surprised.
Vitality could not relate.
That's rough. I feel like the one thing that these two teams have in common beyond being like heavy underdogs coming into the winter split is that both bot lanes were performing so well in the meta. We saw many different sides of them that worked in the games, that were carrying the games, and I hope that we get to see that continuous momentum as the meta shifts, because you know we had Lucian now Miseria going on for a very long time. Now some of those champions are slowly segueing out, and now champions and players are going to be more tested.
Yeah, let's talk about Exakick and Crownie, actually.
Sure.
Because I think also going into today, that's going to be one of the lanes to watch.
Yeah,
obviously, Sjokz is going to be one of the lanes.
Yeah,
the lane
look,
to watch.
that's like the big one down there on the bot side, especially with our changes. But Exakick finishing second on the All-Pro team, right behind Hansama.
Yep.
This guy was crushing in lane. Like the bot lane that, I'll be honest, before the season, I wasn't really respecting this bot lane. Like they weren't really on my radar as one that was going to be at the very top level. But immediately, they showed up. On the other side too, I think Crownie showed a lot of really good like late game team fights as well on the scaling pitch. Looked very good in the team fight phase.
I think the main edge that I would give to Exakick is that I believe he showed a little bit more diversity. We saw a Draven game that was very solid. We saw the very late game performances. When I think of Crownie and Labrov, I think the range champion, the Heimendiggers and the Varus and the poke heavy matchups. I remember Crownie's, Jhin and so forth, while Exakick pulled out the Draven and so forth. I'm kind of excited. I'm hoping we get to see the first Aphelios of the day, because both of these guys can play it well.
Look, I like some Aphelios. I think like for a little bit more context on Crownie too, I think there were a couple games where it was almost like up to him to pull the team back to win out, and that's where I see a lot of his power in the later stages of the game. Whereas SK just overall, I think, showed a little bit more diversity as a team in the way they could play the game, and that actually brings me up to the top lane as well, because I see some similarities between both bot lanes and both top lanes too.
Do you know?
Yeah, Irrelevant led the league for top laners in terms of solo kills kills during the BO1s, which shocks me. But then you also have Adam,
No,
who's
Sjokz
going
is me.
nuts.
Okay. Anyways.
But also, Adam is playing all of his fun picks, the Darius, the Olaf, absolutely styling on kids in the top lane too.
I think the key thing as well is that a lot of the top lane champions are remaining the same. We have a new patch, but K'Sante got nerfed, and I think that all of those champions Adam has been playing, they're going to remain the same. I can imagine that Relevant's going to drop a Scion, he's going to be doing his thing where he survives, and Adam's going to do his absolute best to try to decimate. And I think another big plus for BDS too is Maokai is out of the picture, and they don't need to lose to a 5-pick Maokai that someone slipped through the draft, so that's a big blessing.
They can completely ignore that one. That's awesome. I mean, I also just think, like, for me, Adam was a guy who, when he first joined the league, right, like huge shoes to step into, of course, was playing a lot of these unique picks as well, but I don't think he ever really owned that top lane, right? He was kind of underperforming, you know, tough as a rookie trying to step up into the shoes that he needs to be.
Yeah.
In the beginning, yes. Yeah. But this year, he has been on a completely other level. Like, I think he was the second best top laner in terms of the regular season, absolutely. Back in Winter Split, this guy was on another level and really challenging the best top lane talent we have here in Europe.
I think the main thing is just that he's been able to convert the leads. When I was working with him, he was very, very good at, you know, creating those leads, getting those solo kills, because having that advantage in the matchups is such a big deal. But now I feel the big change is, even though he's playing aggressive summoners, he's finding ways to connect with his team and actually, you know, impose himself in those team fights, which is so important if you want to win games, because in the end, you'll have to fight as a group.
Exactly, and I guess that's one of the keys I'm looking at, because we have a little bit of a delay, by the way. Shall we go to the desk, because I don't want to stand?
Oh,
yeah, why not?
All right, let's do it. And I hope it's, you know, solved soon, but we'll see.
Look, all the poker chips that were over here, we got them cleared out, so the desk is fair game now.
Here. So we'll just try and make this as smooth as possible. So yeah, let's talk about then where they should evolve, because I love that we take the hype angle, and I think we should, because they exceeded so many expectations in the Winter Split that it's easy to just stop there. But I hope they are not doing that, Yamato and Ender. For SK, eventually they made it to playoffs, which I think was phenomenal. But where do you think they need some improvements still to improve even on that result?
I think the main thing, if anything, if I look at this team in terms of what a potential weaknesses be, is just how they've maneuvered themselves around the 3v3, 2v2 mid. We haven't seen a lot of action around that. A lot of the gameplay comes through bottom side, because this is what DOS prefers. I think in a meta where you see the Lee Sins and the Annies come in, I think you need to be ready to contest the 3v3 in mid. And I think this is going to be an adaptation that a lot of the supports that have come back into the league and have been very good in the laning, where they will be tested a lot more against some of the more veteran players within the league, that are more willing to, of course, you know, pick that Nautilus, go to level 2 mid, level 3 mid, and then contest into the bottom side, because the pacing of such a game is so different.
I think you're right on the money. Like, I need to see more consistency for both of these two teams, specifically around the mid lane, because, I mean, both Sertuss and Nuke had games where they popped off and were sort of leading the charge for the team. They also had games where it was definitely not the story. And for a guy like Nuke in particular, I was very impressed with his Akali throughout the regular season in Winter. I think a lot of those champions, he was able to sort of get out of lane, roam around on, take skirmishes on. That's where the Akali was able to farm a lot of kills, because I don't really see them going above and beyond in the actual 1v1 matchup, or the 2 versus 2 matchup around mid lane. That's not really the MO of either of these two teams.
Yeah, I feel like for BDS, I take everything into account that I saw out of them out of Winter, including kind of the great antics. We saw one again here, so I'm happy that they're continuing the tradition of the cool entrances. But we do have to be realistic in the fact that, you know, they ended up falling to first G2 and then Astralis, a team that they should have been able to fight, that was around their position or even below it, Yamato. So what else are we looking at for BDS to see their continued growth?
I think another essential piece to this entire conversation is just the jungle matchup. I think Sheo had fantastic Wukong games where he found very good fights. Divine Sunder was bought, and all of a sudden you had those big swing moments where BDS could contest anybody. But when the game becomes a lot more strategic and it's surrounded maybe like Elise gameplay, Sejuani gameplay, I didn't feel the same kind of presence from Sheo. And I think that is so important, because on the flip side, when I look at Markoon and what he has managed to do, I think that you know, the identity that they play through bottom side has been super clear. We've seen a lot more champion diversity from Markoon's side. I can also imagine him playing Lee Sin. I think this is where they can potentially squeeze more value, more consistency in the jungle position, where the plans are a lot more clear-cut. But to be fair, you know, Maokai is nerfed, Elise is nerfed. Maybe he will get to play Wukong all split long.
Maybe we'll see, and that would be a great success. Would you like to stay on BDS SK, or since we have extended time, would you like to break it out through the rest of the league and our expectations?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the league.
Okay.
Thank you for
No
going that way.
problem.
That was crazy. Because this is like not really a bold prediction or anything, but I think that when you look at the standings from Winter Split to wherever we end up in Spring Split, I would not be surprised if they looked completely different, right? I think one of the awesome things about this format is like how fast-paced it is, and like it's just one patch and you could be eliminated if you don't figure that out perfectly. And even without a ton of roster changes, I just think it's very likely that we could have, you know, different teams riding around the top of the standings. I still would expect like our G2s, our Mad Lions to be riding very high up there, but the middle of the pack and the volatility of BO1s, even the BO3s where BDS faltered just a little bit and were knocked out by oh my gosh, Astralis, yes. I think that, yes, Astralis stepped up and beat them on the day, but also, like, were Astralis a weaker team heading into playoffs? Yeah, the standing said so, right? Astralis squeaked in at the very end,
yeah.
But at the same time, we only had 3 weeks to see them play, so upsets are here to stay.
Thank you for rolling with that production, because I actually wanted to remind everyone of the standings, Yamato, before I got to you, because you think about the middle of the pack, but then all of a sudden, you know, you see SK Gaming in 3rd and Koi in 7th. Not everything went to plan.
No, for sure. I think just what the format has shown and proven to me is just that the pre-season preparation before the best of one start, that is where you can squeeze so much value. Koi was a team that said that they took it easy. They didn't want to hard practice in, of course, December. No, in playoffs.
Okay.
Like, they didn't want to hard practice before the season, and they're kind of pacing themselves, and that kind of worked out. All things considered, they managed to get into the top 3, and that's, of course, a success considering some of the time investment some of the other teams have done. And I think with this format as well, if you are eliminated after 3 weeks of play, you can begin to assess the next patch, you can begin to practice, you get to put your rest time earlier, because I know that a lot of the teams that were playing on the finals weekend, they took a week break. Naturally, after 6 weeks of gruesome play, you take a break and then you have to jump right back into it. And 2 patches have been rolled out and you need to kind of connect to what's going on. That's a challenge in itself. So there's this term that I want to coin, which is split fatigue. There is a thing, you know, I think that it's very, very true when you are playing. Imagine a world where teams go to MSI after a long split, they win the split, all of a sudden they have to come back into summer.
Yeah, like the G2 2019 was always talking about that.
Yeah, pretty much,
It might even be worse.
Could be. And I think that's where the opportunity is. I wouldn't be surprised if the bottom 2 teams are going to be completely different from what we had in the previous split.
Yeah, I'd really like to sort of pick your brain on like the mentality going into scrims compared to like, because I imagine when you have like a tournament weekend, right? LEC is coming on the weekend, whether it's BO1s, BO3s, BO5s, like there's an added pressure when you're coming in. Maybe you're practicing a more focused style, perhaps when it comes to like you're playing a BO5 and you know exactly what you need to play, compared to once you've lost after 3 weeks and you get a little bit more time to experiment, to try and incorporate new players. Like there's less pressure on the players to like get it right before the weekend. Do you think that like opens up creativity? Does it just like, I imagine that's a freeing process as a player and a coach.
I think the key thing coming into the best of 3s is just having more time. I think when you only have 3 practice days and then you're going to play best of 1, best of 1, best of 1, it's like we see only the players on stage for 1 hour. But the preparation, the time in between, you are committing 5-6 hours in order to play that game in terms of draft preparation, draft conversations. And that, of course, bleeds into the practice. If you're going to be in a position where you're going to have negative momentum after a weekend and you have to figure that out after like basically 3 scrim days, that is very difficult because you need to recover, you need to rest, and at the same time you need to adjust. So in my mind, it's all about the preparation that you have before the season begins, because otherwise you're going to be just completely lost in the sauce. The pressure is going to just amount, and all of a sudden, all of these issues that you want to address, you're going to try to band-aid fix them, and eventually you kind of drown in your own situation.
You know, recently, myself, some of the caster crew, and actually some of the players have joined as well, have gone to dance class. And sometimes they teach the same routine for a couple of weeks. But if you miss that first week, it is impossible to keep up. And you always feel like you're band-aiding the situation and half doing the move you're supposed to.
Yeah.
So
Makes a lot of sense.
There
It's
we
a perfect
go.
analogy.
So now we're all gonna dance on
Yeah,
the
I know.
analyst desk.
In
It's
the
happening.
Olympics,
No.
just dance. That's
Anyway,
No
what
League of
is that
Legends for
called?
those.
It's a comparison. It's not an allegory.
Analogy.
It's analogy. Yeah,
Analogy,
there we go.
there you go.
Okay,
I
anyways.
was like, the Olympics?
What is that called?
I don't know.
Anyways, for those of you that are just joining us, we are delayed a bit heading into BDS versus SK as league officials investigate a login issue related to the client. The situation has resolved and players are now completing ready checks. Will be on the Rift in a few minutes. It reminds me of the video where you saw DOS and then Sertuss telling him, or Exakick telling him, your caps lock is on.
Right. Yeah.
I hope this isn't the same issue.
That's a user issue,
That's
I
a
think, not
user
necessarily
issue.
a hardware
not
issue.
anything else. But we will be back in a few minutes. So let's continue what you were talking about in terms of the preparation. Where does that put these two teams? Because these are teams that have gotten relatively far, but are still were done a bit earlier compared to the teams that made it to the finals weekend, of course, right? And I don't know what their schedules were, but what would be the ideal thing to do if you only had 2 weeks until the split started?
I think the main thing is just try to harvest as much information as you can from the best of threes that you played, because the nature and the dynamic of how the team is in a high, more pressure situation, I think is super, super important. And then following that is just figuring out the meta. That's so important. Figure out the right matches, what is going to work for you. And as long as you figure out your identity, it doesn't matter who you play against. You have to perform at the highest level possible.
Okay. Perfect note to head over to the casters. So let's do it.
Let's dance. Show it off. Woo!
Let's
Yeah,
dance.
Betty.
Let's boogie. Let's dance. Let's boogie. Oh, I'm the cringe one.
I wasn't going to say
Really?
this, but that makes you look more like Joe Exotic than you will ever know. Just
I
expecting
don't know who
Tiger
that
King
is.
to come out here
I
now.
don't know who that is.
Anyway,
Oh, more
game
music.
2 of the day, BDS
You can
versus
still
SK.
see me boogieing.
Let's go. Let's see who can continue their form from winter. And into draft we go. Once again, we're on 13.4. We will be for the entirety of the regular season. Then we'll jump up a couple of patches, I think, to 13.6
Yeah.
for group stage and playoffs. Sejuani banned away by BDS. Caitlyn removed by SK. So far, blue side, 100% win rate in Spring Split, Betty.
What? That's crazy. Let's see if that changes in game 2. Now, for those that don't know, Exakick played 8 games of Xayah last split.
Didn't he win like 7 of them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was pretty good. So they're going to ban that. The question is, will SK ban an Olaf, a Darius, or what will Adam prepare for us today? G2 showed us a lot of Kled last split, so I do wonder if perhaps Adam has adopted the Kled technology or whatever shenanigans. Perhaps a Cho'Gath we saw over in the LCK. I think we also saw some in the LPL, but my memory does elude me. Draven going to be taken away from Exakick as well. So a lot of AD carry bans. This does mean that Xayah is, of course, is still up and available alongside the Gragas, who right now in the current meta are the highest priority picks.
And Aphelios. Aphelios has been rising through the ranks pretty quickly over in LCK and LPL. Wouldn't be surprised if Exakick, who was an Aphelios main when he was on LDLC and when he was in the LFL, gets his hands on Aphelios again. I think he even played it in playoffs. Maybe it was either groups or playoffs, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the Ash ban by SK. BDS looking for their first pick now.
Admittedly, though, right, I always love this story about AD carries where they're like, why didn't you tell them that I was a Draven main? And I was like, because every AD carry in the LEC is a Draven main. I don't, what do you want from me? Like, win on it more, okay? Annie, of course, up and available, will be the first pick for BDS. The flexibility of the champ, you already talked about last game. You guys better get used to it. I'm honestly surprised it's getting through.
Yeah, same.
The AD carry bans are still rampant. Red side, it does seem... I'm surprised that Varus is still considered as strong as he is. I feel like that he was the AD carry that has the most answers based on what we saw last split.
We are seeing a mix of Varus builds now as well, though. A lot of people have moved over to the on-hit one. There's also the AP mixed on-hit one.
Right.
Where if you're building into a lot of HP stackers, you can go Nash's Tooth in there as well.
I mean, I've seen full AP Varus builds, and the ultimate, it's surprisingly hard. You can often be caught off guard by that. Regardless.
No Varus in this game. Xayah and Vi for SK, it seems. They're going towards those tried and true. And against the Annie, you kind of want to push in that bot lane, so we'll see what support they decide to team up alongside it. BDS are looking likely at jungle plus support here.
Could be
jungle mid as well.
Well, it could be Wukong plus Aphelios.
True.
Perhaps.
Yeah, jungle AD carry actually makes more sense than jungle support.
Ooh.
There is the Jarvan lock-in for Sheo.
Some Jarvan changes to his W. I forget if I think the nerfs did come in 13.4 actually, because he was buffed originally, I think, on 13.3, and then I remember reading that they were like, oh, buffs were a little too strong, so we're going to nerf them again in 13.4.
You're correct.
And there is that Aphelios that we were just talking about. Now, I wonder if this will be paired up alongside the Annie, because I am interested to see what the perspective is of LEC teams, whether or not they think that Annie is good with all AD carries, or whether she's only good with specific ones. I get the impression that she's pretty well-rounded and can pair up quite nicely with a lot of AD carries, but I love Aphelios Thresh. I think it's a very staple bot lane. Last year, many remember it, the Aphelios Thresh into Jinx. What was it? Was it Jinx Lulu? Or was it
I think it was Jinx Lulu, yeah.
But there was, there was a lot of Jinx Aphelios last year, is the main point. But we know how reliable it is. Thresh offers a lot of safety and peel and protection. But Xayah Rakan, tried and true. It's nice to see it back, I think. Yeah. Obviously, people get tired of AD carries pretty quickly because you tend to be on like a specific small pool of AD carries.
Like 3 AD carries that rotate usually.
Exactly, yeah.
Anything but Zeri and Lucian.
But the reason why I love Rakan specifically is when paired up with a Vi, the engage is terrifying.
Yes.
You know, Vi can often have that problem where she locks onto a target, they flash away, very difficult for then anyone to follow up. Rakan is a perfect champion for following up, thanks to his mobility and the range with which he can close the gap. The Garen ban, showing respect towards Adam, who was the first player to bring it out here in LEC, and to devastating effect. I actually think they ended up losing that game, but I remember him being really annoying on the champion.
Yeah. Didn't he solo kill, is it Broken Blade? Top lane?
He solo killed.
Sure
I think if Adam has been in a game, he's
probably got a
some.
solo kill, that's true. With the Jax and the Sion bands, it looks like Irrelevant is going back to the Gnar. Once again, just safe top laner. Usually manages to survive most matchups, although game 1 showed that he can be pressured, he can be forced behind if you're able to get him a low early on in the game. Now BDS need to look towards... Ooh. No,
it's Gragas.
It's Gragas again.
Oh, Gragas Yasuo.
Okay.
Is this Gragas jungle Yasuo mid, or are they?
You got to put Jarvan in the jungle. Gragas top, Yasuo mid, Aphelios
Do you gotta put Jarvan in the jungle?
You got to put Jarvan in the jungle.
You got to put Jarvan in the jungle.
No one puts him in a box, but you put Jarvan in the jungle.
But Adam.
I mean, it's true.
Is he a Gragas player?
Okay,
or is he a Yasuo player?
Jarvan support, Gragas top, Annie mid.
No.
I mean, we've seen Jarvan support the last split. It's not going to happen. It's Jarvan in the jungle, but I was just giving you an extra alternative.
I think it might be Jarvan top.
It's possible. There's the Akali. We know where that's going. That's going to the middle.
For the record, like, you look at that draft from SK and you're really sad if you're Jarvan. Yeah. This is not a happy, yay, I'm excited to play Jarvan game. Who do you lock down here? Maybe the Xayah, which has also got her ultimate to provide that extra bit of self-peel. Everyone has a dash to be able to get out of his ulti. Right now, though, the question on everybody's mind is who is going where on what?
Is it Yasuo top?
It could be. Adam's not going to play Gragas, man. No
I mean,
shot.
true, but I don't think neither of us said Yasuo top was the possibility. We thought that it might be...
I said it was an option.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I wasn't listening.
That's fine. It's fine.
But there you are, your option, I believe.
It was like 7.
Included.
There
Adam
it is.
will be playing Yasuo in the top lane.
Okay, Yasuo top. Into Gnar. I mean, that was an old school counter. Do you remember? Back in the day, just because, it's really easy for Yasuo to trade, and you can win wall his boomerang, and then Gnar just doesn't have anything that he can really kite you with anymore. So, yeah, it's a pretty good matchup for the Yasuo.
Never played it before on a professional stage.
Why does that surprise you? Adam does that all the time.
Sure, I'm just giving you some numbers.
That's fine. That's stats, cool. You know? I did say, why does that surprise you?
I don't actually know when the last Yasuo top was.
I don't know.
In the LEC. I'm going to have a quick...
I'm afraid I can't answer that question, but instead I will get the crowd a little bit more warmed up. As we're getting ready for Game 2 here of the Spring Split, it is BDS versus SK Gaming. We're moments away from getting into game. And here we are.
It's lights out, and away we go.
Lights out. Oh, yeah, you remember that reference.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
So Yasuo top's been played 8 times in the LEC, all time.
Sure.
Guess its win rate.
I'm going to say it's like 33%.
Yeah, 38%.
Ooh, I was close.
Last time was Woolite in
What?
2019 LEC Summer.
Woolite, that's a name.
So that was a troll game, I assume, because he played into a Kayn. And Woolite was an AD carry, not a top lane.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Before that, I've got a few Challenger Series games in here. The last non-troll, as far as we know, LEC game where Yasuo top was played was 2015 Summer by Cabochard.
That sounds like a Cabochard. Did he win?
He did win, 7-2 and 4.
Oh, there we go. If Cabochard
He was
can
playing
do it.
into Nautilus top. Okay. That's enough looking back at stats. Let's pay attention to the game.
Right. Is there any early game shenanigans? Let's have a look across the board. Of course, as a reminder, both these teams kept their rosters moving into spring. Both overall can be pretty satisfied with what they showcased. SK securing a top 4. And BDS, while not being able to qualify for that top 4 spot, still having a really good performance in the best of 3s, even taking a game off of G2. But it was Adam who was shut down in the early laning phase on his Olaf against Astralis, where he was hard camped, and Finn was able to get the better of him with an element of jungle support.
Just a little bit of jungle support in that game. I'm sure he's having flashbacks to Sejuani ganks over and over again. We did notice Sheo picking the Jarvan here. A little bit surprising, but actually with the buffs that Jarvan got as DOS engages onto Labrov in the bot lane, this should be fine. With the buffs that Jarvan got on his W, with the shield now scaling off your bonus AD, actually is a lot stronger as a jungler than he was. Before, you didn't have any scaling on that shield. Now, if you jump in and you have a Gore Drinker, you get a bunch of bonus AD, you can actually have quite a hefty shield as you go in for that engage. DOS going to trade in here. Going for the Q second. You often see this on Rakans now. Sometimes you even take Q first into a melee matchup just for the trades. Because the healing off that Q was buffed, I think on 13-2 or 13-3.
Something like that,
yeah.
Sheo will be spotted on a ward as he moves into the bot side of the map. Reminder that while Nuke does have a bit more push, the bot lane does not. He's been able to... Oh
Just
no, he will be spotted by the ward. Exakick gonna be... Well, he wants that cannon. He wants the cannon.
Markoon's coming around as well. Now, DOS can auto this cannon W away. He needs 3 for that E though. Still, at 2-3 minions away from it. The stun's gonna land. There's a knockup as well as they look for the kill onto Exakick. The ignite is enough. Sheo takes it in the end with that red buff proc. And BDS get first blood.
Well, SK knew that the gank was coming. What they didn't expect was the flash stun from Labrov, and this is the power of Annie. Her ability to set up these plays is just so easy. Labrov working towards another stun, but he won't quite be able to get it. They'll push the wave underneath the tower. They'll get a nice back off. DOS trying to hold and freeze the wave and interrupt the back. That he will. Okay, so he's bought some time here.
Look at where his jungle mid are. Sheo and Nuke are actually hard invading here, looking for this blue. Maybe just trying to force Markoon off towards the other side of the map. Instead, we'll take the Scuttle Crab.
But a great start to the game from BDS and good gank overall. You can see the idea that with Markoon hovering, SK was saying, hey, we can respond to this, we can counter this play, or counter rather this play, and they just were a little too late. The damage was too much, it was too fast, and we're gonna have a quick look back at it. So again, you can see Markoon hovering right behind them, but flash stun from Labrov. Just so quick, very difficult to respond with. You basically got to react flash for flash, and even if you do, depending on whether or not the Annie has been able to Q her stun, even if you do flash, you can still end up stunned on the other side of it, which means that Sheo could have then just EQ flash to get that additional knockup. So overall, good stuff from the early game from BDS. They've clawed a pretty healthy early game advantage as top is winning, the jungle advantage, and of course the support advantage across the board.
Yeah, good lead early on here for BDS, continuing the way that they mean to go on. SK, their bot lane was such a point of power for them in winter. Now Exakick is, still ahead in CS. Those wave pushing in though means that Crownie should be able to catch them. Once again, Sheo looking for a gank. No flashes were expended by the SK bot lane, but still the threat with the Graviton root, and now Labrov can charge the stun. There's the follow-up, and Exakick just doesn't get a moment to move. Crownie on the board, second kill of the game for BDS.
The vision control on the bot side of the map from BDS is fantastic. You have a look at some of these wards. They placed these deep wards earlier thanks to the mid prio that they had. They had this control ward already in the bush to make sure that all of the vision that SK did have, which was very limited, was denied. Remember that DOS very early on already swapped to the sweeper, so outside of the single trinket that they had available on Exakick, there just wasn't any vision available to them. So BDS punished that. They looked for a repeat gank, and the wave was pushing away from them as well. They want to try and push this wave out, and now it can very much be frozen, but the play is simple. Crownie has the Gravitum available, is able to get the roots. Labrov uses the W into the Q to secure the stun, and then Sheo doesn't even need to EQ. DOS tries to knock him up to buy time, but it's not enough. Another kill.
It is one of the weaknesses of Rakan as well. You can stop people a little bit with your W, you can stop them getting into the fight, but if they're already on top of someone, you have no way of really disengaging your AD carry until you get the quickness that you can charm people away from the fight. It's not something like an Analysts that can headbutt them away, or a Nautilus that can, hook them and CC them a little bit more. It's a bit of a tricky one. Rakan's laning phase has always been one of his main points of weakness. Even with the Q buffs, he's still not the strongest in the lane. Relatively safe to blind pick if you're willing just to stay back, but for the moment, BDS are doing a very good job of isolating this bot lane and putting them behind. And when you're trying to isolate someone on SK, when you're trying to find a place that you can really put pressure on, this bot lane is a key target. They are so consistently the carry for SK when it gets to later portions of the game. If you put them behind in the early game, maybe SK will struggle.
Have to wait and see. We've seen Sertuss have some strong Akali games in the past, of course. Often in the mid to late game is where we see him shine. We'll see if he can have a strong performance. Things like Gragas, though, can be very obnoxious to deal with. Annie as well. The single target CC can make an Akali's life very difficult. But if that stun is not available, Akali can run rampant on the backline. Markoon hovering around the bot side of this map, but with the top side camp spawning soon, he's going to have to move away from this bot lane, which means that a dive is a possibility. Diving a Xayah is difficult once you hit 6.
Sheo was spotted on this ward in the tri-bush as he came across here. Markoon's waiting as well, but
he's just
Sertuss are now on a ward, and even though BDS didn't know they were on vision, their vision control allows them to avoid the possibility of a counter gank.
I mean, Sheo is just covering. His primary goal right now is to make sure that the bot lane is safe to push this underneath the tower. Now he's going to drop the sweeper. SK shouldn't have information that he's here. They should only know that he's at the bot side of his map. In theory, the red buff is up. But you can see already, Exakick, he doesn't like this. He's going to back away. And SK's forced to play defensive because their team can't offer that support with Markoon hovering around the top side of the map right now. In terms of looking forward, obviously the Herald is available. Crownie, with this push they have in bot, they could immediately rotate up towards the top side of the map, or they could just look to base. But it seems that neither team is really looking to contest it early on. A little bit surprising from both teams, especially with the control that BDS have in the bot lane 2 versus 2. Perhaps they prefer to just keep Exakick and DOS in lane as much as possible, secure plates for themselves, and kind of stifle any opportunity for SK to crawl anything back in this early game.
SK might look for something up towards this top side. DOS dives in, dashes back. Exakick has 6 now, though. Should be able to get away from Crownie and Labrov, even though the stun does connect. Not too much invested by the BDS bot lane. Can use that Molten Shield to stack up the stun again if you want, as Labrov ult for ult traded. And in the end, all Crownie's trying to do there is make sure that Labrov, when he gets that Tibbers, can just land the flash stun. Exakick no longer has an ultimate, doesn't have the cleanse. Flash away now. That's good from DOS. Means that Labrov has to be a little bit more tricky with how he gets close. And Exakick and DOS can just catch the wave underneath the tower here.
You can see how much pressure Labrov is able to put down with the Annie, leveraging the range. 3 members topside will be all that is required for BDS, but that means the cross map. This is where the communication needs to come out that Markoon could be looking for a play in bot. When you look at the lane state right now of BDS, they want to try and push this wave out as quickly as possible. They're in an awkward spot, and Markoon's found the angle.
No flash on Labrov. Do you go for him? Do you go for Crownie? Flash away, flash forward from DOS. The chase is in, but the summon Tibbers will not be enough. DOS takes it with the ignite. SK invest everything into finding that kill.
So it's unfortunate that the kill doesn't go on to Markoon or Exakick, but SK will at the very least get something back. It was the cross-map play that we expected, and BDS, they just weren't ready for it. They're able to shut down Crownie. They should be able to push out this wave, and Exakick, for the first time this game, can get a base where it doesn't result in his death.
Yeah, actually choosing to go back to base rather than being forced. Now, Labrov can use Tibbers here to interrupt some of these bases.
Oh, and he will.
He does exactly that. Tibbers just ticking away on Exakick and DOS, burning them down, and they have to respect the bear, Vedi.
Yeah, this is so annoying.
It's unbearable for the SK bot lane.
Oh no, don't you
It's
dare.
a grisly situation
Stop
to be
it,
in.
stop it. I've heard every single one of your bear jokes.
So I love the bear jokes, but you're the polar opposite.
Yeah. Stop it! I'm so angry. Are you done?
Yeah,
You sure? Positive. This is your last chance. If you've got any more, get them out right now.
Yeah, but if I get them out later, they're better.
No, don't you dare.
Talk about the game. I'm going to Google bear puns.
40 seconds until the next dragon. Will likely be the next point of contention. No summoner spells available on Exakick or DOS. And I literally just heard Markoon say 20 seconds.
20 seconds on his ultimate is what I'm going to assume here. As you can see that one ticking for Markoon. We'll be up relatively soon. BDS trying to invest down towards this bottom lane. Do have that Rift Herald. Remember, Sheo got that earlier on, and BDS have put on a bit of a clinic in this early game. Shut down the bot lane of SK, or at least put them behind. And got the objectives. Now one dragon in the hole, but for it, they're about 1,700 gold ahead. A lot of that sitting on Crownie as well. Adam in the top lane. Haven't really talked about top too much as Markoon looks for something here. Immediately dives in, but DOS can't chase forward either. Looks for Sheo. But Labrov's just going to be able to get the stun here, and Markoon was all... it was just all over the place from SK. Markoon dived in, Exakick wasn't there, DOS came in late. It was a disaster for SK, and BDS very happy to accept the kill.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we get a replay of that, if we could actually click on DOS to see if he had his cooldowns up, because I wonder if the idea was Markoon goes over with the Blast Cone, DOS then uses his E, and then they look for the engage, because as you rightly said, it looked very disconnected from SK as Markoon effectively isolated himself. And one of the strengths that we talked about of this Rakan is that it's easier to follow up on these type of engages, but it was not easy at all. So SK will fall further behind as BDS will secure their first dragon of the game.
Reeks of desperation, really, from SK. We saw DOS as well, as you were talking, just use the quickness in the lane, tried to get onto Labrov. He doesn't have flash, but nor does Exakick. How are you ever going to close that gap? And now with the Rift Herald coming down, you can see Nuke moving across from the mid lane because he's always got push into Sertuss. BDS are really commanding this early game and forcing SK to make some difficult decisions. The Rift Herald charges in. Nuke was just covering in case they wanted to look for the dive, but that's 3 tower plates already, a 3,000 gold lead for BDS. And look at it, Crownie is 1.2k ahead. Labrov continues just to be a nuisance, and DOS and Exakick unable to back that. We'll stay around, maybe trying to hold Crownie and Labrov away from this wave. I wonder if Crownie's just looking for a certain item threshold as he picked up that one extra set of minions.
Labrov walked up with the shield, trying to bait something out of Exakick. Let's have a look back at this replay. Oh, so we do have the cooldown, so we can see he has everything up. Goes over the wall. Does he put himself out of range of the E? Because DOS, that to me said that Markoon was going to go over, DOS was going to go with him. That was very clearly the game plan. But for whatever reason, DOS did not follow up on Markoon, and I'm not entirely sure why. I don't know if he put himself out of range so that... But I feel like the E range is so long. But maybe...
I think it was about the edge of the range for the Vi, but I don't think it was out of range, having played a bunch of Rakan. On the Xayah, it's obviously a lot longer for the E, but I think when he was in that bush, Rakan should have been able to eat him. Whether there was something else happening in comms, it was very disjointed is what we can say, and it gave another kill over to BDS, which means at the moment they are in.
It could have been a as we call it, Vedius, where I'm going in, wait, never mind, don't come with me, I'm dead.
Well, because they didn't have vision, right, because of the control wall. So maybe they just didn't know that Sheo was there. Markoon jumps over the wall, and DOS is like, wait, there's 3 of them, and then doesn't immediately eat.
Oh yeah, the classic, no, I'm good. You know? You do you, king. You know? In any case, we're looking always towards the next objective. Things like the Herald and Dragon, of course, not available to play for right now. No real plates have been secured for either side, which means that we're just kind of in this ebb and flow, back and forth battle for vision in this neutral mid game. Why you say something funny, Medic?
I don't have much funny stuff.
You literally had all these bear puns you'd prepared. You'd set the audience up for that.
That's more spur of the moment, you know?
Spur of the moment.
Yeah. Can't just come in here expecting me to like a puppet for you, just give you bear puns on demand, Vedius, as Exakick tries to trade onto Labrov here. There's the stun. Exakick does still have the Featherstorm. DOS coming in with the quickness. Labrov flashes away, but the charm still hits. And with the Featherstorm, it's enough. Crownie flashing forward. Will kill off Exakick, and now they're looking with the TP for a little bit more. Adam diving in. Can't get close enough. In the end, it's 1 for 1.
Well, they should be able to convert this into a tower. Adam committing his TP doesn't really result in a kill, But the 1-for-1, as you rightly said, and Crownie securing that kill is definitely a net positive for BDS, and Adam can continue to push this wave in bot. And look at this, the TP comes out from Nuke. They're able to catch every single wave, and they can send the Aphelios off to the mid lane. And now they've got nice lane assignments, exactly what BDS wanted. So even though it was Exakick to kick off that play, thinking that he could punish Labrov, like, I was a little surprised Exakick chose to go for that fight, because Annie, like, her base stats are just strong, right? And her setup and the fact that you would choose to commit to that fight when you know that she has the stun and how easy it is for her to get that stun as well, very surprising. Of course, he does still get that kill, but yeah, it does cost him his life. And now the Herald is alive, which means that BDS very quickly converting to this objective as well.
SK are set up in the area, but no ultimate on Exakick, no ultimate on DOS. Means that it would be a sticky situation for them if they decided to walk into it. Looking at their current situation, they decided they don't have the necessary qualifications.
A koala's not a bear, is it?
They're called koala bears.
True, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. How wrong of me.
Exactly. Although koala, I think in the native language it originated from, I don't know the exact language, so I'm just going to say the language it originated from means bear. So you're just calling it a bear.
Bear.
Labrov looking up towards this top lane here.
In Wales, there's the River Avon, and the word Avon in Welsh means river, so it's called the River.
Nice.
Yeah, fun fact.
Welsh is an odd language, though.
Yeah.
What's the word for taxi again?
Taxi.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Invented.
And then radio,
Yep.
ambulance.
Riptide charges in. This will be top lane tower going over to BDS. The second of the game. SK got one in the bot side. In recompense, Sertuss has the TP. He's split pushing right now. He's in an okay position on this Akali. Already finished his first item, about 500 gold ahead of Nuke. The question is whether or not he can have an impact when it comes to team fights. Next dragon up in 8 seconds. And you can see BDS resetting, trying to gain some vision, because right now SK do have a ward line in their jungle, and Nuke will find the wards and clear them out. That's what he's doing.
That's what he's done.
Clearing those wards.
Yep. Dragon up. Markoon going to secure that one. I don't think that BDS is likely to contest this, which means that it will just be a Drake in favor of SK. They do have that potential win condition, but with the deficit that they find themselves in, BDS is looking very good right now. You think about the scaling element. Of course, we talked about how for a Jarvan, you look across the other side and you're like, well, this comp doesn't look very fun to play into, but really all he needs to do is get that knock-up, lock down that target that maybe doesn't have a flash. He just needs to create chaos in the fight. He can do a lot of work. He's sitting in what he believes to be the fog of war, but little does he know that he has in fact been spotted.
A little bit less foggy here. An episode of
Sertuss.
Silent Hill rendition, it seems, as Sertuss looks for Crownie. Exakick dashing forward to Gale Force as well. Crownie trying to get away, but Sertuss gets a shutdown. Lane wait and picked his mark, and he gets a double forward. We asked if he could show up, and he does exactly that.
Sertuss, that was clean, my man. That was incredibly clean. Wow. Wow. Very, very good stuff. I really hope we get a replay of that so we can break down exactly what he does, because he doesn't waste a single skill. He fully understands his damage limitations, and he plays it perfectly. So Crownie is the target, naturally. You'd think that he would commit the E here, but he doesn't, right? He commits the Q, he procs the passive, gets the Q again into execute, and that's more than enough damage. Then he lands the E onto the Annie as the knockup comes through, waits for the knockup, follows through into the auto, and then execute.
It's really nice.
Just very well played by Sertuss there. Again, not a single wasted skill, manages his energy flawlessly.
Didn't need pause for thought there from Sertuss. Once again, was able to find his mark. I've got one really good one. It's the last one of the cast, okay?
Okay,
What do you call a bear with no bees?
Ear?
Yep. That's just really funny to me.
How is that funny?
It's like, what do you call a fish with no eyes? Oh, goodness.
I've heard a deer one before, but I can't remember what it is.
What do you call a deer with no eyes? No idea. What do you call a dead deer with no eyes? Still no idea. That's enough puns.
Yeah.
Let's talk about League of Legends.
Someone's been watching The Last of Us.
Yes.
All right, well, when we think about next objectives, we're looking at things like out of towers, what objective can be secured. One of the problems that SK do have is that their siege, not the strongest. Exakick being your only ranged champion, and honestly, not being that long range means that you have to get very close to secure a tower if you just want to do a front-to-back kind of trade, which means that you kind of have to cross-map to secure these next objectives, which means that SK should be looking at the top side of the map. that top tower, which is already where they're setting themselves up for nicely. Markoon has the ultimate, and they're going to go for the dive now.
Wave's been cleared out there. They get onto Adam. Sertuss going in as well. Dashes in, dashes back. The Immortal Shield Bow enough to keep the Yasuo alive.
Again, another nice combo there from Sertuss, but as you rightly said, the shield bow is really what kept Adam alive there. He wasn't forced to burn the flash, and with a quick TP from Nuke, he was able to get away to safety. Now Dot is in some danger.
Yeah, he's in a lot of danger. Quickness into flash there. Sertuss couldn't hug the wall close enough for him to E because he would have been caught out by Nuke, so safest way out for DOS. Maybe could have invested the flash instead of just the quickness, instead of the quickness first, but...
So, the advantage here for BDS now is that because they were able to protect their top tower, thanks to the TP investment, they can now start pressuring this top side and getting slightly deeper vision. As we already talked about, by rotating through this mid control that they had, they're able to move up through mid into then the enemy jungle and then drop these small wards here. Now, this doesn't result in massively deep vision, but what it does result in is by pushing this wave all the way in, it buys you enough time to actually reset on the map and then get back out and then basically have greater tempo than SK, giving you more opportunity to make plays, and you can see all the control wards sitting in their inventory, ready to gain some map information and set up for the dragon that spawns in about a minute and 20 seconds. It's just a really great awareness from BDS overall, as they should be able to find a pick.
Irrelevant. Building up that Mega Gnar. DOS is on the way as well. No quickness, remember, on that Rakan.
Nice
Pops the
disengage.
Aphelios. Couldn't get in range for anything more, and so SK will just have it disengaged from them. BDS unwilling to take that fight right now. Both AD carries at 2 items, both mid laners sitting on the same. So damage in this next fight pretty relatively equal. The only difference really is in top lane. Adam's Immortal Shield about to come off. He's got the Bloodthirst a second as well. Something we have been seeing a little bit more on this Yasuo. To be able to survive for a while. Double control on the same wavelength there, although...
Just to make sure...
Double control again!
Yeah, that's... we must have control!
No more controls! Vedius is in for Adam. The knockup's going to come in as well, but Sertuss dives onto the back line. Now onto Labrov, dashing forward with the perfect execution. Adam and Labrov able to get away, but Sheo is isolated from the rest of his team. In the end, it's DOS that falls first. Sheo trying to get away from Exakick and will burn the flash to do so. Nuke, explosive cast into the last breath, but Exakick still has a Feather Storm. And the tempestuous moment it is for SK. Sertuss goes back in. Sheo with the shield! The Aegis shield upgrade! All that bonus AD coming in handy for Sheo. He survives and Sertuss dies.
Does help the Sertuss through his Q the wrong way. But that will beat BDS walking away with 2 kills and a dragon as they're able to outplay SK. It looked like a great fight initially for SK. The fact that they were able to lock down Adam for so long, it felt like that the damage would be more than enough. But BDS walk away the victors. And SK, someone in shambles in this early game. It's just been clean execution from start to finish so far from BDS. Adam walks up to try and contest that control ward. Honestly, a bit of an overzealous play. Sertuss focusing a lot on Labrov. Maybe his focus is a little bit split, as you can see. The dive onto the backline onto Crownie, but then there's no follow-up because Sertuss burnt everything onto trying to do what damage he could onto both Labrov and Adam, which meant that he then ran out of fuel. Then the ultimate comes through from Nuke. Followed that up with Adam. Forces Exakick back, and you can see here, Sertuss lands the E, the shield, the heal, and then Sertuss threw his Q backwards. He wouldn't have had enough damage anyway, even if he did land that Q, I can tell you right now. But yeah, no bueno.
Well, not for SK. BDS.
Again, 2 control wards. Do they just think that they come in pairs?
Look, okay, I'm pretty sure.
The control wards came in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah.
Pretty sure someone on BDS just really has been watching LS's co-streams, and he said something bad about BDS. And so they're like, hey guys, 2 wards everywhere. Spend it. 150G, put it out there.
Get value out of these control wards, bro.
It's funny though, see? 2 control wards all the time.
Well, they're out of control wards now. There's 1 left.
They have 1.
They can't double control ward again, right? Surely.
How like, okay.
Oh no, they have 2.
Also, one of those control wards is outside of the bush.
Yeah, it is.
Could be trying to catch
the irony
a ward
is
that's down
they
by this
put
lane.
2 there, right? 1 outside, 1 inside, to make sure they got everything.
And they got rid of the one that was
They got rid of
inside,
1 inside.
Such is life. Sometimes these things don't quite align. Last breath once again onto Sertuss, dashing away as much as he can, trying to survive this. Adam's still on the chase, but a good, perfect execution from Sertuss, using that ultimate to escape over the wall.
Close one. Nice combo set up by BDS. Will not really result in much. TP once again. Wow, BDS are committed to keeping this top tower alive. Nuke has used his TP bot top. He's just, you know, it's an unleash now. You could be TPing elsewhere, but he's like, nope, gotta protect this tower, my man. And that is what he'll do. Bot lane's gonna be pushed out as well. BDS getting some vision around the top side of the map once more. Resets coming through. Stopwatch now secured for Crownie, meaning there's significantly less threat onto him.
And one of the questions we asked about BDS last year was how they played their mid games, because they tended to struggle. Their early games were good, then their mid games collapsed. In Winter, we saw their mid games get a little bit better. And here we get to see another example of whether they can close out a game against a formidable opposition. Like SK, although they've had a bad start to this split, you know, all 25 minutes of it, they did make playoffs. They made top 4.
Let's also not forget that SK always fell behind in playoffs.
Yep.
And then they came back in teamfights. So maybe they'll out-teamfight their opposition.
Possible. We just had a couple of minutes of, you know, bouncing back and forth with these waves, trying to get vision control. With it being 2 minutes still on the third dragon for either of these teams, it makes sense. There's a bit of bouncing, you know. But
would you say the BDS have displayed as the bare minimum of mid-game control?
Yes, I would.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I can do them too. Dab on them.
Yours was unbearable, I'll be honest.
You already used that one.
Have I?
It's cheating. Top lane being pushed in right now. BDS, they're looking for the fight.
BDS going in onto Sheo. Look at the knockup. Look at the CC. Exakick does not get an opportunity to react. SK forced away. And Exakick down once again. And it was beautiful stuff there by BDS. They push forward. They're looking for more. At least this mid lane tier 1 will probably be all for this push at least, as they back away once again.
Look at the shield that Adam has. The Bloodthirster combined with the shield bow along with the stopwatch. The man will be very difficult to kill, as poor Exakick didn't even get a chance to use anything. Ended up getting locked down, chain CC'd, and not the strongest return performance.
It's
obviously
also the debate about heal cleanse. Sorry, I assumed you were going to talk about how good he was.
I was going to talk about how good he was.
You can do that first if you want.
No, but you make a good point.
Yeah, why heal over cleanse is my question, I think. Looking more at this game, looking more at how things have played out.
Fair point.
Cleanse would have just helped you a lot more. With
I mean, in his defense, he got knocked up first.
Oh, true.
And
yeah,
then stunned.
Up,
yeah. And like the stun, frankly, was kind of redundant. However, in lane, had he had cleanse,
Gravitum doesn't root you anymore.
Yes.
Anti-stun doesn't stun you anymore.
Correct. You're right. I would agree with you. Cleanse definitely has a lot of value here. Unless, of course, you get knocked up. The Gragas and the
Yasuo and the Jarvan.
Yeah, that wouldn't help.
Yeah, it does mean it's a little bit of a struggle. Third item complete now on Adam as well, on that Yasuo. Guardian Angel. He hasn't died yet, and he doesn't want to make it a habit. Markoon and Sheo butting heads down towards the bottom side. Irrelevant working his way down, as well as so has Adam. SK, they're fighting for this, but it's going to be a very difficult affair to navigate, I fear. Sheo has worked his way all the way behind here. Sertuss could jump in there. Markoon could do the same. Do they know that Sheo's there? They don't. Sheo lying in wait. Sertuss caught.
Irrelevant.
BDS with a fog of war trip before Irrelevant's trying to get onto the backline, and the engage comes out. The Gnar, the knock-up, the CC chain Exakick dashing forward as well, and Crownie's already so low. Crownie will fall before he can even pop his ultimate. And Sheo was waiting in the fog of war, but SK didn't give him an opportunity to strike. They pounce. They almost kill him off. Irrelevant can chase forward, flash, boomerang. The shield will not save you now. Irrelevant chases him down, and it's a shutdown over to SK. The Dragon, their prize, and 4 kills to boot.
And just like that, SK's team fighting comes online. This is exactly how this team came back in so many games last split, and they do it once again. A phenomenal engage. It happened so quickly, I didn't even see how it all came about. All I saw was the bot lane of BDS getting chain CC'd into death. Flawless execution from SK, and this should be a Baron to boot.
And like that, the game shifts. The pendulum of favor now working for SK. They are still behind in gold, but they have Baron buff for 3 minutes. And they have 3 dragons sitting in their back pockets. Have another look at this. Irrelevant goes in, Markoon engages.
So this is the engage that we're talking about, though, you know? Oh, the knockup. Oh, my word. So Irrelevant got a 3-man knockback into the Rakan knockup, which then knocked 3 people up. And it just made it so much easier for Sertuss and Exakick to deliver so much damage in the fight. BDS, wow, what a combo. SK effectively created a 3 kind of angled attack with Sertuss coming in from that choke point near blue buff, Irrelevant coming in from mid, and then the jungle support coming in from bot lane. Very well played fight from SK. And who'd have thought? We talked about it earlier. This is how they came back into games. Then we got to see it live in action. This is what allowed SK to secure that top 4 finish at the end of Winter. And we'll see if they can do it again. Now the gold is dead even. SK in a much more confident position, and they're going to feel much more confident. Sertuss bot lane.
There's the quickness. Markoon could follow up here, but
hang on, what?
They decide against it. So Markoon was like hovering around the edge. Maybe they didn't know if like Sheo or Nuke were holding around the corner, but it's the second time this game we've seen DOS and Markoon perhaps a little bit out of sorts, not on the same page at least.
Yeah, I mean, I also saw Sertuss bot lane, like, he wasn't going to TP quick enough to be able to follow up on that. Exakick I didn't see there. It was...
I can see DOS seeing that, oh, we just burst Labrov. Like, cease and desist quickness, he just dies.
Sure.
Right, and then you just walk away. But obviously didn't work out as the way they had planned. One of them reading War and Peace, the other one well and truly in a copy of, I don't know, another novel.
You didn't really think that one through, did you? No, you didn't think that one?
Yeah, just different pages.
You're just naming books that I don't read.
War and Peace is a pretty good book. Dostoevsky, classic.
No.
Tale of Two Cities as well. No? Moby Dick?
I read
Ishmael?
I read a story
okay.
about a bear, and this isn't a joke. I'm actually being very deadly serious. A bear that got a cupcake with 6 cherries on it, and then the story is about how everyone asks him for a cherry, and then he ends up having the cupcake with no cherries on it because he gives them to all of his friends.
That's kind of
and then he gets very sad because he wanted the cupcake with cherries.
So his cupcake was bare in the end, was it?
Yeah, and what I learned, the moral of that story was just don't be nice to people. So now I don't share my gum with anyone. Yeah, thank you, Bear Book. Someone's going to tweet at me, I know that book, but it's a real book. I forget the name of it, but it's about a bear with a cupcake and cherries. Anyway, mid being pushed in, top being pushed in, Adam being dived on.
Looking for Adam here, the wind wall going down though. Adam has lost no health yet, just burning through the shield. Explosive cast from Nuke, a little bit overeager there as well, perhaps was looking for someone, but Adam lost no health. Just worked through the shield and still has GA up.
So Observer's also highlighting that the mid tower did in fact go down. The thing about that Baron is it didn't swing the game heavily in favor of SK. It basically kind of returned the game to a neutral state. You can see that the difference between the AD carries now has gone. Before, it was a massive advantage for Crownie. Now that's not really relevant. You can see that Adam does have a big gold lead over Irrelevant, but Sertuss has accrued his own lead over Nuke in the mid lane thanks to all the kills that he's been able to find. So the game is pretty dead even. The carries are very fed, and the dragon spawns in about a minute's time, which will be very important for SK. BDS will be forced to fight over it, so now it's just a matter of securing what vision you can. You can see DOS trying to, well, I was going to say, get this vision down, maybe even look for a reset, and then come back out onto the map. But if nothing else, he's forcing BDS to expend their vision to clear what little vision he invests.
And one of the benefits of Inferno map for vision control is it makes vision control harder for the defending team because you can only put so many control wards down, and there's more nooks and crannies in which you can hide your wards now. So we saw like control ward went down in the red side of the red pit instead of in the bush, which means you could put a ward in that bush. Makes it a little bit trickier for BDS to adequately use their control wards, but they have 3 sweepers, so they're using those instead. Both the sports over 100 vision score already in this game. Going to be expected. Now BDS have control of the river, and it's SK who are face checking in. The ward on Sertuss will spot him. DOS still looking for that quickness. No flash on him, though, means that perhaps Markoon needs to be the one to initiate. Sertuss has put a control ward down here, but if he walks out of that bush, he'll still be spotted by the ward that the control ward doesn't spot.
They know that he's in a flank somewhere. I'm not sure if they actually spotted him walking into that bush. They have a feeling that he's in the try. And Irrelevant building up that rage bar.
Almost got the mega.
Now
Sertuss
spotted.
They know exactly where he is. They want to fight for this dragon, though. It's soul for SK if they get it. Irrelevant builds up the mega flash. 4-man knob into the wall. And the CC chain just doesn't stop coming. Exakick gets another S3. A beautiful smash into the wall from Irrelevant. Everything his team needed in that moment. And SK clean up the fight.
Irrelevant once again with a fantastic Gnar ultimate. This man just has not missed this game. A fantastic execution and really the core of what has made SK's team fighting so strong in this game. A great comeback from SK. Their early game, the BDS had their number. They were in full control, but when it came down to these fights, SK just found the windows and found the way to make it work. Irrelevant with an incredible game. Sertuss really cementing himself as a very strong Akali here in Europe. And they need to reset. They take the inhibitor, they go back to base. They know that much stronger now after another 1-team fight and the Dragon Soul. The Baron is spawning, and this is likely next going to be the main objective that both these teams fight for.
You see Sheo just looking for some sort of flank position here. Only has the Gore Drinker Randuin, so isn't going to be able to burst anyone down. Not perhaps the lethality Jarvan that you may have seen in your solo queue games, but Sheo is in a strong position here. DOS stepping in, has that quickness, has the flash. Sheo still has yet to be spotted. Sertuss spots him now. Sheo, you gotta realize! Doesn't realize quickly enough. And Sertuss molded in the darkness, formed by it, finds another as the engage happens. Irrelevant once again with an Gnar, but doesn't actually land any stuns into the wall there. Nuke getting chipped away at Markoon on the chase forward. Nuke pops the stopwatch, but immediately afterwards, you gotta feel he'll go pop as Exakick takes him down. DOS and Irrelevant looking for a little bit more. Markoon knocks up Crownie, and Sertuss still on the chase, has the perfect execution, doesn't even need it. As they round out the kills, TP to the mid lane, TP to the Nexus towers. SK grasping victory from the jaws of defeat. Adam trying to defend, another stopwatch, buying a little bit of time as Adam once again gets the last breath, but he's aced. And SK will clean it up and continue their winning ways from Winter.
A fantastic comeback from SK. Some excellent team fighting and just great individual performances from Sertuss and Irrelevant. This duo in the fight was incredible. We saw some great engages, of course, as well from DOS and Markoon. That's how we expected the combo to work, right? Yep. The Vi goes in, the follow-up from DOS makes it just very powerful in terms of the chains you see. And DOS often would catch strays, you know? As they were trying to peel, he would actually charm a number of enemy members, get multiple knockups, and that would make it easy for Irrelevant in theory, but it was Irrelevant that was just finding these plays on his own. The 3-man knockback in the river for that initial fight. Another multi-man ultimate landed in that final dragon fight. Just excellent execution from SK. And this is a team to watch when it comes to the 5v5. Of course, they still seem to have some of their early game issues. BDS did a great job of punishing this bot side of the map. They played around the Annie very well. They shut down Exakick, and they were able to get the better with how they utilized their mid-prio and their jungle synergy to control the bot side vision and set up those early Drakes. But the second that we moved into the 5v5, nothing but domination from SK.
Yeah, beautiful stuff from them. Playing their composition to a T, and was Irrelevant, as you say, and Sertuss stepping up really to make those plays happen. BDS will be happy with their early game. In a very strong position, just couldn't quite close it out. A few minutes of ping-ponging waves back, couldn't quite find advantages. And Adam had a relatively good performance on the Yasuo. You know, he was a shining light at times for BDS, but a struggle for them today to round out this game. And SK now 1-0 up. Your player of the game, votes at LEC on Twitter. Irrelevant, Sertuss, and DOS are your options. All three very good ones.
Very fair. Yep. Very, very fair.
I think I'd cut off the support from that list if I were being...
I mean, not to take anything away from him either, of course.
Just a few missteps early game, and then later on, he definitely came into the fore. But I think Irrelevant and Sertuss had pretty... I don't want to say perfect, but unblemished games.
I mean, if you were to, like, look at value, right? Yeah. Irrelevant's ultimates in both fights was just incredible. Truly, truly incredible.
It really is. We're going to hand it over to Sertuss, who's standing by with Laure.
We call him Sertuss. I want to say LEC Xayah for this Akali performance. Thank you for joining me and congrats on this game. Amazing one.
Thank you very much also for calling me Xayah.
I mean, I love the fact that you play this champion so much. I think you're undefeated so far on Akali. And even though it may not be the best mid lane pick right now, tell me about your love for the champion and especially why you think it was such a good choice here in this game.
I mean, maybe it was not the best into like Gragas or also any, but we had like Rakan with Vi, so we have a lot of engage and a lot of setup, and our draft was like basically killing Aphelios or Yasuo, and my champion is good at killing the enemy. So I picked that up.
Is it the kind of champion, because you're so confident on it and because you're so good on it, you think you could pick it pretty much at any time or not the most optimal situations?
Yeah, I think so. I think Akali, if you're really good on it, you can blind pick it and play like most of the matchups. Yeah, that's why I love this champ.
All right, that was what went good for you. Let's talk about what went bad a bit. And I want to mention the early game here. Bot lane, what happened and how did you recover from this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they have this strong bot lane in early with Annie. So it's like, fine, I told my teammates, hey, we just scale up. Don't worry on bot lane. I mean, our early games, the last like matches, also in the end of Winter Split, was not like the greatest. But yeah, we will work on it.
And that is something I wanted to mention, actually, because Winter Split for me and for SK as a whole was pretty successful. Maybe you don't think so, but how do you reflect on Winter? And again, improvements in what can be made better for SK. What did you work on during the short time that you had to be ready for Spring?
I mean, we had 1 week of scrims and practice. Like, it was a short practice week. And we basically just went through all the basic stuffs again. And yeah, I mean, we finished 4th place. A lot of people didn't expect this, but we are here to belong to the top teams. I want to belong to like the best mid laners in the league, like Caps, Lars, Niski, and yeah, that's what we aim for.
Can't wait to see this improved version of SK then in Spring, and also keeping an eye on the early game. Thank you so much, Sertuss, for the interview.
Thank you
Good
very
luck
much.
on the game tomorrow. And that's all for us here on the set of the stage. We'll be right back in a few minutes for Mad Lions and Upset's return within Vitality. Stay tuned.
And 2-3 minions away from it. The stun's going to land. There's the knock-up as well as they look for the kill onto Exakick. The ignite is enough.
They want to engage. They're engaging also. We're playing fast. You need to come.
Any lock-up?
I can kill them maybe.
Xayah,
I can kill them, yeah.
Rendition, it seems, as Sertuss looks for Crownie. Exakick dashing forward with the Gale Force as well. Crownie trying to get away, but Sertuss gets a shut down. Lay in wait and picked his mark, and he gets a double forward.
This is so annoying.
It's unbearable for the SK bot lane.
Oh no, don't you
It's
dare.
a grisly situation to be in.
Stop it. I've heard every single one of your bear jokes.
So I love the bear jokes, but you're the polar opposite.
Stop it!
Moving. When did we stop doing it? When did we settle for technology that keeps us still? The Kia electric range. Technology that moves you. Kia. Movement that inspires.
1600 block. I just wanna rock. I just wanna I just wanna rock. Body out of ya. Shorty got that body out of ya. Hit it once, no time. Tied up, you gon' kill my vibe. Stand on my money, don't know my size. Pick them sides, and you better choose wisely. That's my high. 1, 2, 3, 4, throw up to 5.
Where legends have walked, and even bigger legends will continue to make their name.